Welcome to tonight's bedtime story. Tonight we'll be telling the story of the handless maiden. Once upon a time, a few days ago, the man down the road still owned a large stone that ground the villagers' grain for flour. The miller had fallen on hard times and had nothing left but the great rough millstone in a shed and the large flowering apple tree behind it. One day, as he carried his silver-lipped axe to the forest to cut deadwood, a strange old man stepped from behind a tree.
"There's no need for you to torture yourself by cleaving wood," wheedled the old man. "I shall dress you in riches, if you will, but give me what stands behind your mill."
"What is there behind my mill but the flowering apple tree?" thought the miller, and agreed to the old man's bargain.
"In 3 years' time, I'll come take what is mine," chortled the stranger,
and he limped away, disappearing behind the staves of the trees. The miller met his wife on the path. She had run from their house, apron flying, hair askew. "Husband, husband! At the stroke of the hour, in our house came a finer clock upon the wall. Our rustic chairs were replaced by those hung in velvet, and the peltry cupboards abound now with game. Our trunks and boxes are all overflowing. Pray tell, how has this happened?" And even at that moment, gold rings appeared on her fingers, and her hair drawn up into a golden circlet. "Ah," said the miller, looking in awe at his own doublet turning to satin. Before his eyes, his wooden shoes, with the heels worn to nothing, so he became tilted backward. They too turned into fine shoes.
"Well, it is from a stranger," he gasped. "I came upon an old man in a dark frock coat in the forest, and he promised great wealth if I gave him what is behind our mill. Surely, wife, we can plant another apple tree."
"Oh, husband," wailed the woman, and she looked as though she had been struck dead. "The man in the black coat was the devil! And what stands behind the mill is, yes, the tree, but our daughter is also there, sweeping the yard with the willow broom." And so the parents stumbled home, weeping tears on all of their finery. Their daughter stayed without husband for 3 years, and had a temperament like the sweet, sweet apples of spring. The day the devil came to fetch her, she bathed and put on a white gown and stood in a circle of chalk she'd drawn around herself. When the devil reached out to grab her, an unforeseen force threw him across the yard.
The devil screamed, "Ah! She must not bathe any more, else I cannot come near her."
The parents and the girl were terrified, and for some weeks went by and the daughter did not bathe until her hair was matted, her fingernails like black crescents, her skin grey, her clothes darkened and stiff with dirt. Then, with the maiden every day more and more resembling a beast, the devil came again. But the girl wept and wept. Her tears ran through her fingers down her arms, so much that her dirty hands and arms became purest white and clean.
The devil was enraged. "Chop off her hands, otherwise I cannot come near her."
The father was horrified. "You want me to sever the hands of my own child?" the devil bellowed.
"Everything here will die, including you, your wife, and all the fields for as far as you can see."
The father was so terrified he obeyed, and begging his daughter's forgiveness, he began to sharpen the silver-lipped axe. The daughter submitted, saying, "I am your child. Do as you must." And this he did, and in the end, no one could say who cried out in anguish the louder, the daughter or the father. Thus ended the girl's life as she had known it. When the devil came again, the girl had cried so much the stumps were left of her limbs were again clean. And the devil again thrown across the yard when he attempted to seize her. Cursing in words that set small fires in the forest, he disappeared forever, for he had lost all claim to her. The father had aged 100 years, as had his wife also. Like true people of the forest, they continued as best they could. The old father offered to keep his daughter in a castle of great beauty and the riches for life, but the daughter said she felt it was more fitting she becomes a beggar girl and depend on the goodness of others for sustenance. And so she had her arms bound in clean gauze, and at daybreak she walked away from her life, as she had known it. She walked and she walked. High noon caused her sweat to streak the dirt on her face. The wind beheveled her hair until it was like a stork's nest of twigs, all tangled this way and that. In the midst of the night she came to a royal orchard, where the moon had put a gleam on all fruit that hung from its trees. She could not enter, because the orchard was surrounded by a moat. But she fell to her knees. She was starved. A ghostly spirit in white appeared and shut one of the sluice gates, so that the moat was emptied. The maiden walked among the pear trees, and somehow she knew that each perfect pear had been counted and numbered, and that they were guarded as well. Nevertheless, a bough bent itself low, its limb creaking, so she could reach the lovely fruit at its tip. She put her lips to the golden skin of the pear and ate while standing there in the moonlight, her arms bound in gauze, her hair of fright, appearing like a mud woman, the handless maiden. The gardener saw it all, but recognized the magic of the spirit who guarded the maiden, and did not interfere. After the girl finished eating the single pear, she withdrew across the moat and slept in the shelter of the woods. The next morning the king came to count his pears. He found not one missing. He found one missing. And looking high and looking low, he found no fruit, for it had vanished. The gardener explained, last night 2 spirits drained the moat, entered the garden at high moon, and one without hands ate the pear that offered itself to her. The king said he would keep watch that night. At dark he came with his gardener and his magician, who knew how to speak with the spirits. The 3 sat beneath a tree and watched. At midnight, the maiden came floating through the forest, her clothes dirty with rags, her hair awry, her face streaked, her arms without hands, and the spirit in white beside her. They entered the orchard, the same way as before. Again a tree gracefully bent one of its boughs to within her reach, and she supped on the pear at its tip. The magician came close, but not too close, to them and asked,
"Are you of this world or not of this world?"
And the girl answered, I was once of this world, and yet I am not of this world. The king questioned the magician.
Is she human or spirit?
The magician answered that she was both. The king's heart leapt, and he rushed to her and cried,
I shall not forsake you. For this day forward I shall care for you.
At his castle he had made for her a silver pair of hands, which were fastened to her arms. And so it was that the king married the handless maiden. For tonight, that is the end of our story. What do you feel about this story and how it resonates with you? What morals does it tinker at within your mind and the back resources of your psyche? We have all been the handless maiden at one time or another, where our power has been stripped from us, and then through faith and the grace of the divine, being given the beautiful golden pear that we eat with faith, and we follow forward with faith to then be rewarded with a king who accepts, appreciates, and is in absolute awe of us, because that is what we deserve. Now, good night.